Welcome back, SADDOs, to another episode of the Sitcom Archive Deep Dive Overdrive with me, Eggs Benedict.
And me, Alison Barton-Simmons.
We are now on the final episode of Series 3, which is episode 7, entitled The Last Posh Frock.
Haven't we got here fast?
We have, yeah. 3 whole series down, just 1 more to go, and 2 specials.
Wow. I'm feeling a bit... I'm having that sort of terrors a little bit now that we're nearly at the end of it, and it's making me feel a bit sad that we've...
I will be sad when it's all over, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's such a good show. I just love rewatching it, and it's been so different rewatching it through this lens where we are completely anal and forensically pull apart every episode. It's been so enjoyable, and we hope you've enjoyed it as well. The idea is you can watch the episode that we talk about. If you've got the DVDs, you can do it that way. If you're a BritBox subscriber, you can do it that way. Or you can follow the links that we tweet out every week and watch it for free on Dailymotion, which is what we both do, isn't it?
It is. I started with DVDs and then just, I lost the will and now watch it on Dailymotion.
God bless the pirate who uploaded it to there many years ago.
Thank you.
So this is the last episode of Series 3. We've only got 1 series to go, as we say. So we really are thinking now good and hard about what we're going to do next. It's we've got so much to choose from, so many classic old British sitcoms, 70s and 80s that we love. So this week we thought we'd just have a quick look at the other sitcoms that the stars of The Good Life have been in, briefly.
They did quite a few, didn't they? And do you know what I read? I read that the BBC had promised them all 4 stars of The Good Life, promised them all sort of like a new vehicle, not like cars. I mean like a new TV vehicle to then go on and do post The Good Life.
Imagine they'd promised them cars and given Richard Bryce his rotary cultivator. He could do 7.5 mile an hour.
Save it till last. And from Dickie, we've got you this.
Yes, I believe that was part of the incentivization. Is that a word? Incentive?
What, to stick with the BBC?
Yeah, to sign up for this sort of 4 series. They all got a vehicle. And obviously, I think probably the 2 who did best out of it were Margot and Jerry, Paul Eddington and Penelope
Yes, definitely,
Keith.
yeah.
Because To the Manor Born was a huge success for Penelope.
It was.
Again, she was playing that character that's not a million miles away from Margot in terms of a posh, entitled, middle-class character.
Yeah, she's like a bit further upper class, isn't she? She's a bit of a sort of a step on, perhaps.
Landed gentry more than middle class.
Yeah.
But brought down to earth. If you've never seen To the Manor Born, which seems unlikely if you're listening to this show, if you've never seen it, her character, Audrey Forbes,
Hamilton?
Audrey Forbes Hamilton, loses her position after the death of her husband.
Yes. It was also a cousin, I think, bizarrely. There's some kind of, inter-family marriage.
Well, that's the way it is with the upper echelons of society.
No, it was to keep the land within the family.
Your sister is your mother, your uncle is your brother. And it's a good show. I can't remember how many series it goes for. That's something we could look at in the future, possibly, although not straight away, because we need a break from Penelope and she needs a break from us.
Yeah, it'd just be like Margot, The Return, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And as we mentioned, Paul Eddington went on to be Jim Hacker, Prime Minister Jim Hacker, alongside Nigel Hawthorne as Sir Humphrey in Yes Minister / Yes Prime Minister.
Yes.
Margaret Thatcher's favourite show.
God, yeah.
For which she was the part-time writer. in her own head.
Oh. He still had, I think, as the Minister and the Prime Minister, I think Paul Eddington sort of carries on Jerry's style. He's the way that he dresses is quite sort of familiar, isn't it? I can still sort of see Jerry in him as those characters. Although he's not got the smarts of Jerry. He's just a bumbling fool, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's beleaguered in the same way that Jerry is at home with Margot.
Yes. Yeah.
But this time, instead of by a controlling wife, it's by a controlling underling who is basically pulling all the puppet strings.
All the strings, yeah.
Nigel Hawthorne's fabulous in that show.
He is. I think just together them two are like just a match made in heaven, aren't they, for TV?
Do you know, this has just come to mind, because I have social media tools that go and find mentions of the actors and the characters so that we can insert ourselves into the conversation and help reach more people. Something came up the other day, and it was a letter that Paul Eddington had written to Margaret Thatcher about the decline of, or the lack of funding to the arts and to the theatre.
Okay.
Because you know the way, after a certain amount of time, the office of the Prime Minister have to release things. Is it 30 years?
I think, yeah.
That's how the Hillsborough stuff all came out, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So he was writing to her basically saying, get your hand in your pocket, you old snatch.
Really?
Well, no, in nicer terms than that.
No, I don't think he...
No, that's not really Paul Eddington's style, is it? But bizarre,
fascist bully boy.
Not much changes, does it? Because now, post-COVID, the theatres and the arts are still struggling, and the Tories are still... Oh shit, I'm on my soapbox again.
Oh, no, I totally agree. It makes me really sad, because we've all just fucking sat and watched Netflix for the last 6 months, and then we bemoan the arts and money going towards keeping theatres propped up and all the things that we would do, and it's just really sad, isn't it? People that are unemployed now. It just it doesn't really make sense.
As well as those two shows, though, there is also Ever Decreasing Circles, which I think is one of the most underrated sitcoms in British history.
I thought it was a really cosy show, Ever Decreasing Circles, and there's characters in that I've sort of I remember as a kid watching it and thinking that like Penelope Wilton was beautiful in it, and thinking, oh, she's a really good actress, and Peter Egan as well.
Peter Egan's wonderful in it.
But sort of watching those guys as they have gone through their career to like now, and most recently I've seen them two in the new Ricky Gervais series, Afterlife, and just seeing them together again, I think them two are like another match made in TV heaven, I think. In fact, Ricky Gervais, who put both of them two into Afterlife, said that they are the whole series of Ever Decreasing Circles was one of like his biggest influences, and that after Richard Briers died, he said that he'd waive the repeat fees on The Office if they showed Ever Decreasing Circles on the BBC again, which I thought was very interesting, considering that he's got quite a lot of clout, hasn't he? So hopefully Ever Decreasing Circles might turn up back on the BBC again.
Yeah, that'd be good. They're all on Daily Motion, by the way.
Yes, they are, so you can watch them whenever you want.
Watch them wherever you want, yeah. I rewatched the very first episode of Ever Decreasing Circles only about 2 months ago.
Did it wind you up?
Well, the thing is...
He's annoying. He's just Tom Mark II.
Yeah, but Richard Briers' character, Martin, is supposed to be annoying, whereas Tom isn't usually supposed to be annoying. But he is. So Richard Briers' character, as he's deliberately annoying, just didn't annoy me. If that makes sense. Because he's playing the part as intent. Whereas Tom Good is supposed to be a likeable character. And he's just not. He's just horrible. Particularly in the episode we're going to look at today. The other two sitcoms that Richard Briers was in that I made a note about, which I've never seen but I'd like to see, on the basis of who he stars in them with, are the other one, where he meets somebody at the airport who's like the chalk and cheese, and they end up going on the same flight and sharing the same hotel and sort of form a friendship. And that's Michael Gambon is the other person.
Right.
Who's obviously a very fine actor.
I've never even heard of that.
I think it was after The Good Life.
Right.
Maybe 1979. And then before The Good Life, by a good 10 years, there was Marriage Lines with Richard Briers and Prunella Scales in. Did you ever see that?
I haven't seen it, but I am a fan of Radio 4 Extra, and the radio show, which was prior to the TV series, I think, from the very early 60s, has been replayed on Radio 4 Extra in the last 6 months or so. And yeah, it's strange because rather than hearing the usual Richard Bryars and his voice and sort of very down to earth. It's quite clipped, that sort of clipped received pronunciation to it, which is a bit off-putting a little bit because it doesn't sound as familiar as usual.
Was it funny?
In early 60s kind of radio humour, yeah.
Dated though.
A little bit. I don't know how it would stand up to modern audiences that weren't on Radio 4 Extra.
Yeah, sure.
They were just looking for that kind of humour.
So there's a lot for us to chew over there. We might come back and do one of those shows in the future, although it's unlikely to be. We're unlikely to snowball straight into a show starring one of the cast of The Good Life straight away. But if you have any suggestions on what you'd think we should cover in our second series, as soon as this series is over, we're going to take a little break and then we'll be back probably around Easter time with a second series that will concentrate on a brand new sitcom. Well, not a brand new sitcom, a very old sitcom.
Yeah, we've not even written it yet.
So, yes, if you've got any suggestions, get involved on social media or send us an email with your suggestions and we will, depending on whether we like the show, we will ignore it or we will...
or get on with it.
Yeah, exactly. One or the other. But either way, send us your suggestions. That would be appreciated. Shall we have a dive into this final episode of Series 3 then, Al?
Yes, let's do it.
So Series 3, Episode 7, The Last Posh Frock.
Good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life.
The first thing to say about this episode before it started is I think this is the episode that really cemented my hatred of the character of Tom.
Yeah,
from an
no
early
wonder.
age. He is absolutely vile and obnoxious all the way through this episode. And we see this from the first scene he's in, but the opening scene doesn't have Tom in. It has Barbara in Ledbetter's lounge waiting on a lift into town. But Jerry can't get the car started. So Margot and Barbara are reminiscing about their holiday in the summer of 1974, which leads to Barbara sort of getting quite nostalgic of her past stylish clothes and lifestyle, doesn't it? Setting the scene for her frustration in this episode.
Yeah. When she says, I used to look smart then, I felt really sorry for her.
Yeah, Margot compounds it by saying, I used to be jealous, but not anymore.
Yeah. Give it with one hand and take it away with the other.
Yeah, she's totally tactless, isn't she?
Yeah.
But as we said, Jerry can't get the car started, so he comes in all sort of flustered and frustrated. And Margot and Jerry start bickering, and I think Margot says, "Don't flare your nostrils at me, Jerry," without even... he's not even facing her, so how she knows that, I'm not entirely sure.
He must just do that.
Yeah, she's imagining what his nostrils look like.
But Barbara decides that she could probably step in here and help out, knowing how the rotary cultivator car works. She might be of use to Margot and Jerry, and to take a look at the car for them. Yes,
much to Margot's surprise, because she's a girl.
Oh,
there's a lot of that in this episode, but
there is, but Barbara she's able to look into it and decide that it's a garage job. The garage need to take a look at it, but she proper gets in there, doesn't she? She's under the car, she's filthy, and with her diagnostics, she's like Super Barbara.
Oh yeah, she's very impressive. Tom turns up wondering where Barbara is, saying that he's waiting on something and that Jerry should be getting on with it and going and getting it. And I'm thinking, for fuck's sake, Tom.
Yeah,
the guy's
just
doing you a favour.
Yakking away over the fence. Yak.
Yeah, doing that laugh he does where he goes like Muttley. But then yes, they have to push the car to the local garage because it's only up the road, which seems odd because the avenue seems like a very suburban.
Suddenly
road.
There's a garage. Yeah,
because it fits the narrative.
It does.
But Jerry's not keen to push his own motor and dirty his Burberrys and his suede jacket, so Tom says, "Well, Barbara, push it." And Barbara sort of looks at him doe-eyed and says, "But I'm a girl."
Yeah, this episode, it sort of just, it really does pull on your heartstrings, doesn't it? Because it really does set in stone how different Barbara's life is.
Yeah, I think she's, after Margot's comment about how she used to look smart, and then Tom just saying, well, Barbara will push it, and also Jerry offering her a pint.
Yeah, she's not happy about that at all, is she?
No, she's feeling, it's like what's the female equivalent of emasculated? Is it effeminated?
Effeminated. I've never heard that, but it's applicable, I think, in this situation. Yeah.
Barbara's discomfort is magnified by a passing man asking for directions, and which Barbara provides, and then the guy says, "Thank you, Sonny."
That did make me laugh. And her response of, "I'm a girl." She really is. She can't catch a break, can she, in this episode yet?
No, not at all. So in order to sort of feel feminine again, Barbara goes inside and dons her old curtains dress, doesn't she? The one we've seen.
She does. She gets the dress out. She gets the night out dress out again.
And she's sort of swanning around in it, hoping to sort of look sexy for Tom when he comes in. But true to form, Tom arrives and he's too preoccupied with his new valve to even notice this little sex pot prancing around him and leaning in and showing a cleavage. There
must have been millions of men in 1976, 77?
Yeah.
Ready to put the foot through the telly at this point.
Yeah, he doesn't know how good he's got it, does he?
No.
Poor Barbara. But he's preoccupied with his new valve. She's trying to get all sexy, but Tom's banging on about diaphragms, which is always a passion killer.
Yeah.
It's never the way to spice up a marriage, is it?
But she asked him directly. She does ask him, "Tom, do I look nice?" And she's trying her best to get him to even just turn his head and just give her a glance. Because we know from past episodes that when that happens, that little bit of a glance, and they're away, aren't they? But at this stage now, Barbara's almost like hysterical, isn't she? And stamping round, storming off.
Particularly as she storms off, she rips her last posh frock.
Aww.
And you can hear her screaming out of shot, and when she comes in, Tom's totally unsympathetic, still preoccupied with his new valve, and she tells him to shut up when he's saying, "Well, you don't need it anyway, because you don't have anywhere to wear it to." He was just totally missing the point, as is typical of Tom. And when Barbara sort of confesses her misery about the fact that it means something to her to have a last posh frock, even if she hasn't got anywhere, all Tom does is laugh, which must be the most infuriating, humiliating part of the whole thing for her.
She gets her hands dirty and gets stuck in to make the best of this life that they've got themselves into. For Tom's sake, it was all Tom's idea. She's on board. But any sort of like little bit of emotion that she shows, he doesn't seem to get it at all. He almost seems to just sideswipe it out of the way.
He's very domineering at times as well, as we see later on. But we cut now to see Jerry in his red cardigan. He's still got his red cardigan on from...
Love the cardi.
Where was he wearing that? When he was trying to load this freezer with dishes, he was wearing that, wasn't he?
Yeah!
In the last episode. And he's just making a quick call to check in on his car, which hasn't been guaranteed will be ready for him, but Margot takes over, grabs the phone off him and starts bollocking the garage, doesn't she? She's
in proper Margot mode, isn't she? To try and... She even slaps his hand away when he tries to take the phone back off her.
And she says to the poor guy at the garage, "There was a time in this country where a date promised was a date honoured."
She's very, very particular, isn't she?
Yeah.
Margot. Be quiet, Jerry. All right, go and look at your wretched worksheet. No, you may not tinkle me back. I'll hold on.
Yeah, but don't interrupt Margot just now. She's in full flow.
Hello? Are you the same man? Very well. No, that is not good enough. There was a time in this country when a date promised was a date honoured. And if you promise my husband that the car will be ready today, then I... Just a moment. Did they or did they not say that the car would be ready today,
No,
Jerry?
I was just telephoning on the off chance.
Really, Jerry? I do wish you'd acquaint me with the facts before getting me involved.
So, and then Tom pops in to invite the Ledbetters around for a dinner party with Barbara's old school friend Eileen, who apparently is in town as a MacGuffin for this episode.
Yeah, she just appears out of nowhere.
Yeah, even when she turns up, she's in it for like blink and you'll miss.
Yeah.
And you'll miss her. She's barely in it. But Margot points out it's very thoughtful of Tom and it isn't like him which is completely true, but Tom is like, what? Of course, I'm very thoughtful. Of course, this lady is visiting from Canada, and Margot says, well, is she Canadian? Because I've gone off the Canadians since they adopted that silly flag. Did you know about the flag situation in the 60s? Where
I didn't know the flag problem, no.
I looked it
up.
The
maple leaf. Go on, what happened?
Prior to 1965, they used the Union Jack, apparently,
for
Canada. And obviously they're an independent principality, aren't they? So in 65, I think the maple leaf has been through a couple of iterations since. But it's very similar to what we've got now from Canada. But Margot obviously just has taken against it because it's a little bit ostentatious, probably, isn't it? Big and red and bold.
Oh, who do you think you are, Canada? Yeah. Oh, Canada.
Oh, Canada.
Well, thank you very much, Jerry.
So over at the Goods, Tom is sampling the Peapod wine on the night of the dinner party, which at least looks drinkable. The colour looks appropriate for wine.
It does.
Although he reacts to a little sip of it as if it's arsenic or something.
Yeah. He's not Mr. Coles, though.
No. Who could better Mr. Coles? And Barbara comes in. She's not happy about this surprise dinner party, is she?
No, because she's had to cook. She had to cook for her own sort of enjoyment. Out of the blue. She's
not happy also because she's got nothing to wear, whereas Tom's sort of dressed up. And she looks pretty. She looks nice in what she's wearing, but it's not a proper sort of frock or a dress. And
she's had to put an old skirt and top on because she doesn't have anything. Now that her best frock's torn, she's nothing else to put on.
So, I mean, to be honest, I thought she looked better in her skirt and tights than she did in that dress anyway, because it's a fucking awful dress.
Yes, yeah.
However, because she's not happy about not having a dress, Tom's very dismissive again. He's saying, "Come on, Barbara, that's behaving like a woman, isn't it?" And she says, "Well, I am a woman." And then he responds, he's like, "Oh, don't be difficult." Oh. And then he's pulling her around, manhandling her. Sit. You know, telling her what to do, trying to sort the problem out in a typical sort of male way of like, you know, here's a problem, I will now fix it, but he's just making it worse.
Yeah.
And he at one point when she sort of backs down a bit, when he makes clear that he wins around, doesn't he, by saying he's more interested in the beer, not the bottle. What's inside.
Yes.
Although that sounds a little bit like saying, I don't know, maybe it's just me. It sounded like he's just going, I'm only interested in the fanny.
Yeah, what's on the inside?
I don't care what it looks like as long as I get to pump it.
Oh, Tom.
Yeah, but she sort of comes round when he says that, and then he sort of pats her bum and calls her good girl. It's all very condescending.
It is. She says at one point, "Do you love me?" And he says, "Course I do, you silly bitch." Some of the things that I'd forgotten about these, and it's only with a rewatch that, with a critical eye, I suppose, and with an eye to be able to talk about it. But they toss the bitch word around quite a lot, don't they?
Tom
in
does.
Reference to women, yeah.
He calls Margot and Barbara a bitch several occasions, but on this, even though he's been obnoxious throughout this scene, that line did make me laugh. I have to confess, it did make me laugh because it just shows how inappropriate he is and how unappreciative he is. Well, of course I do, you silly bitch. The way he delivered it was just something about this. He's such a good actor, Richard Briers, which is, you know, is shown by the fact that we hate Tom, but we love Richard Briers. I mean, he's such a likeable guy, and yet Tom is so horrible. Eileen floats in, doesn't she, at this point?
Oh, flipping Eileen.
Very confident, sultry, elegant. And Tom immediately forgets his talk of only being interested in the beer and not the bottle.
I hated Tom in this scene.
When he's sort of snorting and just fawning. He's really obsequious and obnoxious, isn't he? Fawning over this poor girl. In fact, he's literally panting. Yeah. He's going, isn't he? In front of her.
It's embarrassing. I was embarrassed for him.
Mm.
How nice to meet you, Tom.
Nice to see you. Please, come sit down. Over there. There we are. Well, now, Eileen, would you like a drink, Eileen? Peapod or thingamy?
Oh, thingamy, I should think.
Right.
Like a kid, like a child.
Yeah.
Like a teenager on heat.
I thought he was actually going to come on Arlene at one point.
He says to her, "May I say, Eileen, you look absolutely stunning." And I just wanted to put my foot through the telly.
He doesn't even notice Barbara's sort of 1,000-yard stare that she's given him. And then as soon as she's arrived, she's gone, Eileen, because immediately we're post-dinner, aren't we? Eileen's left. The Goods and the Ledbetters are sort of remaining on the Goods couch. Jerry is trying to compliment Barbara on her cooking, but Tom barely notices because he's too busy still, even though she's left obsessing over this Eileen and her beauty.
Her beauty, and Tom says, "You can tell she's a model, can't you?" And Margot comments upon the beautiful dress that she was wearing. And she said, I love those 6 little buttons. And Tom says, 5.
Yeah.
Oh.
But Jerry's very aware in this scene, isn't he? Particularly for a man in the 70s.
Yes.
He's sort of like, he's trying to, he's noticed that Barbara's feeling put out. He's trying to bring the attention back to Barbara. And then he makes excuses when Margot has no idea what's going on. And she says, well, I don't see why we have to leave. And he says, well, I've got one of your headaches. Which is a great line.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with those shoehorned out the way, we get the climactic sort of argument.
Oh, God, the shit hits the fan big time. I love the fact that Barbara really does have to... She sort of, like, composes herself and calls him a two-faced, inconsiderate, selfish rat.
Yes. And Tom goes, what? Which is, again, is just one of those annoying idiosyncrasies about the guy.
Yeah.
I think that's something my granddad used to do, actually, that triggered me.
Yeah. What?
Oh, shut up, you old bastard.
Just any of those words, if someone used them to describe me, I would be really upset. That I'd obviously really upset them. But he's just not even...
Well, he's in denial. He's in denial.
Yeah.
He denies drooling over Eileen, and Barbara's livid. And she's basically saying, what about me? And he says, well, you're Barbara. As if that's like independent of womanhood, I suppose. She says there's, as far as you're concerned, there are 3 sexes in the world. Male, female, and Barbara.
And Barbara. Aww. I did feel for Barbara in this episode because it's obviously such a big deal for her. Those traditional roles, which were more traditional in the 70s, weren't they? That you were, if you're a woman, you are feminine, and that is the role that you portray and act out. And I don't think it was a very fluid thing in the 70s either. To describe it as fluid seems quite a modern thing, but looking back at the 70s, it was very, you just stuck in your lane, didn't you? You didn't deviate from what you were supposed to be doing. And I suppose gender's more of a fluid thing now, because it's across a whole scale, isn't it? And I just felt sorry for Barbara that she couldn't sort of, be action Barbara, fixing cars and milking goats during the day, and still have some vestige of femininity at other times when she wanted to, and for Tom just to be on board with it and all right with it and understanding about it.
Yeah. Scott and Charlene, he was always happy when she was under the car and then sexy at night time.
Exactly, because women can do all those things, and I just feel like Barbara wanted that. She wanted to be able to do all those things, and not just stuck in one part of being a woman. Tom just seems to be almost like gaslighting her, that he just doesn't have a clue what she's on about. And
then he spills the wine on her, of course.
Yeah.
By sort of foisting it onto her, and she doesn't want it. And then he just sort of laughs and says, oh, it's not your day, is it? I'd have just chinned him at that point. Yeah, that would have been too much, that. It was only a shame that when she went and got the gravy boat and poured it all over herself, it's only a shame she didn't pour it on him, really. I thought she was going to do, but then she just pours it on herself to make the point, I suppose. That what is the point? Talking of point, it increased the nipple visibility. I didn't notice. Pouring liquid all over her top definitely increased the nipple pokey outiness of her nipple. Sorry, now I'm being sexist, but you can't help but notice these bloody bullets.
Do you think that was intentional, or were the BBC sort of, how were ratings at this point? Were ratings down?
Well, she's supposed to be unfeminine, so I can't imagine it was intentional. I think it's just a result of her having naturally pokey nipples.
Pokey boobs and gravy poured on her.
Exactly.
Ooh, I like Richard Bryars. I like Richard Bryars. I like Richard Bryars. I like Richard Bryars. Good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life.
The following morning, Tom pops in to visit Jerry for no discernible reason. And I can't even tell what Jerry's up to. He's messing about doing something handy, isn't he?
He's fixing a golf club.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't usually do anything himself, does he?
No, he's sort of busy in... I don't know, I think golf clubs are a thing that you do yourself. I don't think it's something that you get somebody else to do, I don't think.
Yeah. A man's golf clubs are his own domain.
I think so, yeah. I think that's the way it works. This scene, though, I like this scene.
Yes, yeah. Jerry's great, isn't he?
Yeah, I wanted to punch the air at the end of it.
Because he makes that eloquent point about the nature of the two couples' arguments. An argument means something in the Goods house, whereas it's just a means of conversation in Ledbetter's house.
I found that really fascinating, that you think that Jerry's he's not aware of it, he's just sort of acting out the role of a henpecked husband that's under the thumb, that's just managing his wife and doesn't really have much of a say on things because he's that busy, putting out fires for Margot. But to hear him say that the way that he and Margot communicate is by rowing and falling out and little bickering fights. But for the Goods, it's a big deal when they fall out because it's obviously something's happened for them to row.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for Jerry's intervention at this point, albeit that he didn't go out of his way, it was just because Tom came round, presumably because Barbara was giving him the cold shoulder. If it wasn't for Jerry's intervention, Tom would never have seen the light. He was still adamant that he was right and Barbara was being a silly woman.
Yes.
I think it's nice as well that later on, jumping ahead slightly here, we do see Jerry appreciate Margot as a force of nature when he's talking about the fact that they got the car back early.
Yeah.
So I think this bickering between them, they both get off on it, really. Maybe it's not the healthiest paradigm of a marriage you'll ever see, but it works for them. And he's in awe of her as this strong... It's a nice paradox between Barbara and the Goods marriage and the Ledbetters marriage, because it just shows how comfortable Jerry is with this strong woman who's capable of achieving things, even when she's being totally unreasonable to achieve them. She still gets shit done, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does. She does. And like you say, I think it's part of the game, isn't it? It's part of their love life. It all revolves around that back and forth, doesn't it?
Yeah. Do you think it turns him on when she gets her own way?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's part of their game. Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting into erotic fiction territory.
Yep.
I did find some more erotic fiction this week, by the way, Al.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Yeah, you don't like it, do you? I was gonna send it to you and say, "Shall we read some out?" But I
can't. It makes me feel funny.
Well, not in a good way.
Not in a good way. No.
Hells bells.
So back in the kitchen, Tom comes in and apologises to Barbara as she is repairing her. She's finishing repairing a posh frock. He kisses her on the head and he says, "I'm sorry, love," which is the first action in this entire episode of Tom's that isn't abhorrent.
Yes.
And then Tom produces a posh frock in a box in a very sort of sulky way, I thought. But maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe it was more ashamed. He couldn't look at her
I felt it was ashamed.
He just seems a little bit like a child.
A bit crestfallen.
An admonished child again to me.
Yeah.
But that's Tom all over, isn't it? And of course, this new frock is a big improvement on the last monstrosity. So she's done well out of it, really.
Yeah.
But it becomes apparent, doesn't it, that Tom has sold his watch and his suit to pay for this frock.
It does. At this point, I started to feel a bit sorry for Tom, and admire him for sort of falling on his sword, but then I remembered that he'd been a complete dick, so...
Well, we said it before, that's the mastery of the writing, isn't it? Always Absolutely. Redeemable when these characters do horrific things.
To make you love and hate the same character in the same episode, with the same cast amongst them, that's really good writing, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's also something that not every actor could pull off. But it's usually Penelope Keith and Richard Briers who are those two extremes of you know, deplorable and lovable, and they're both amazing. Yeah. But we get a second dinner party that ensues, so that Barbara can feel splendid in a fancy new frock. Barbara enters in her new dress into the Goods living room, and Jerry says that she's ravishable.
And then does he get corrected? But you know that he actually meant ravishable.
Yeah.
Big time.
And even ravishable was probably a euphemism for what he was actually thinking.
Absolutely. He wasn't thinking anything nearly as proper as that.
But then Tom comes in and he's wearing a sort of mismatch outfit, isn't he? He's got like a half of a penguin suit on.
Yeah.
But some just generic slacks.
Just slacks and a dicky bow. Yeah.
So they're sort of like, we'll put the rest of your suit on, soft lad.
Yeah.
In not so many words. And but of course he can't, because he sold his proper suit, and his trousers from that suit are filthy for some reason. He was wearing them to do the gardening, which you got to wonder why. But and then Margot surprisingly stands up, doesn't she? Says, "Well, I should be very proud to go with Tom as he is." And Jerry's reaction to this is priceless. He's like looking around, going, "What the fuck?"
Oh, but then she says that you'll have to put him behind a pillar in the restaurant, though.
Yeah. And that's pretty much the end of the episode, isn't it, I think?
It is. Then off they go.
Yeah.
Off they go out for dinner.
I never enjoyed this episode much because of how horrible Tom is to Barbara and how hurt she looks through it and everything. I mean, it all comes full circle. He does the right thing, blah-de-blah, but he's just such a pig, ignorant, selfish man that I find it difficult to enjoy.
Yeah, I tend to agree. When she's struggling, and he could just step up and understand and just be a little bit more, not forgiving, because she's signed up to this and it's his wife, but
empathetic and human, really, isn't it?
Yeah, human about it. He doesn't seem to. He just wants it right again. He wants Barbara to be back on track, and seems to sort of like usher her back into that role when just listening to her and talking to her might be a little bit more helpful.
Well, it's not even usher, is it? Because usher is helpful. He's more cajole and coax.
It is. Yeah, coax and urge and push, perhaps.
Yeah. He just, this doesn't fit my worldview or how I want my life to be, so change now.
Yeah.
Obnoxious prick. As I did a guest slot on Doug and Ellie Watch Telly this week, and Doug referred to Tom Good as history's greatest monster.
Oh, that's quite harsh, that isn't it?
It is a bit, yeah.
But in this episode, absolutely, yeah, he was a monster.
So with Tom having half a suit, I'm assuming he's not going to get much of a mention in this week's Fashion Corner, but let's have a trip over there now.
Fashion Corner, Fashion Corner. Fashion Corner, Fashion Corner.
This week, I'm going against the grain. It's not Margot-centric this week. It's all about Barbara. Barbara's... I know I'm starting at the end of the episode, but Barbara's dress that Tom buys her as a way of apology is stunning. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's like a halter neck, ivory, silk dress with little delicate daisies around the halter neck collar. Quite modern looking, actually. It's not like some of the stuff that's in the show is quite dated, like her posh frock that she had from the previous life, the floral billowing Laura Ashley number that she wears, that she tears. This this new dress that she gets given is very modern looking, and it suits Felicity Kendall absolutely 100%. With her tiny little waist, she just looks absolutely stunning in it. Margot, however, obviously throughout the episode turns up in all sorts of outfits. In the opening scene, she's got like a navy Breton striped top with like a triangle detail on it, that she matches with a white skirt, bangles and earrings. She's always accessorised, which I love. Matching accessories. And then she later on in that scene, she's got a hat on as well, a red hat, and gloves I think she's got on as well, and this red tote bag, and she looks amazing. And she can just be going to the shops, but she's still absolutely dressed up to the nines. Barbara in this scene is in I think to sort of make the point of Barbara feeling not very feminine. She's there in a scruffy dungarees and a cardigan, and she's filthy. Looks like a little urchin almost.
Thanks, Sonny.
I know, she does. She looks like she's been up doing chimney sweeping.
Yeah, that's actually you're dead right there.
I want to mention Eileen's dress. Come on, Eileen. She had like a pistachio coloured halter neck silk dress when she comes round for dinner, which it is like the stuff of models. And if you were going to go around for dinner to an old friend's house, I don't know if you would sort of dress up as if you're on a catwalk. But she looked beautiful, and it was a beautiful dress. Jerry had his red cardigan, as you mentioned previously, which is always great to see. I think earlier on in the episode as well, we did see the Burberry slacks and tan leather jacket.
Oh, it's a suede jacket, wasn't it? It wasn't the leather one.
Was it not the leather jacket? Was it a suede one?
Yeah, it's a very similar colour, but it's a suede one, that one. It's also very dapper.
Yeah, he did suit it. He suits that tan colour as well. And then when they go out for dinner, Margot is dressed in like a black evening gown, which I don't know if that was sort of on purpose to sort of distinguish Margot, not looking plain, but in you don't often see her in like a block colour, a dark block colour like that.
True.
And I wondered whether it was to sort of show off Barbara's new dress, which is really stylish and beautiful and just perfect for Felicity Kendall. So perhaps it was to sort of like to take
it's contrast,
the spotlight away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Barbara was Fashion Corner winner this week. So after all that and so much going on in this episode, Ben, have you got an MVP for this week?
Yeah, I think Tom. No, not really.
No!
No, not Tom. I suspect we'll both have the same MVP. Jerry. Jerry was, we've said it before, he's such a good friend. He gives Tom great counsel. And then he's generous. He takes the goods out to dinner at the end. And the self-awareness that he shows in spotting Barbara's distress and behaving appropriately at the dinner party. Just what a good egg. What a great guy. I'd love to know a Jerry. I'd love to be mates with Jerry.
He was very perceptive. I must admit, Jerry is definitely my MVP for this week for exactly the same reasons. And it sort of warmed my heart, especially the scene in the garage when he's cleaning or fixing his golf clubs. And he just seemed so wise and not crowing about it. You know, sometimes if you know the answer and you're trying to get that across to someone, he wasn't. He didn't do it in like a
preaching way.
A preachy way. It was very, very calm and letting Tom come to his own conclusion with it.
Stubbornly, it took him long enough.
It did. And I think the fact that he pointed out as well to Tom, because Tom started to get all aerated, and I think Jerry even says to him, you know I'm right because you've resorted to abuse. And I thought, yay, go Jerry.
So do you think it's time for an MVP update on who's winning at the end of the third series?
Where are we up to?
So, just update the spreadsheet here that I've got, because nothing if not anal here at SADDO. 2 votes for Jerry, So I will now give you the scores in reverse order.
Right.
Joint bottom with a 1 vote each, Mr. Carter, Harry the Leak Thief, and Mr. Waitley from last week's episode, or the week before, whatever. Then coming up after them, we've got Mr. Coles with two votes, your favourite. With a surprisingly small amount of votes, Barbara has only 4 votes overall.
Really?
For Barbara. And then in joint second place, with 10 votes each, we have Tom and Jerry. But
right.
Steaming ahead with 13 votes, Margot.
Yay, well done, Margot.
And that leaves us with only 9 episodes to go. Margot must be feeling confident at this stage.
I don't know, I think it's up for grabs.
Well, Jerry seems to have got quite a few votes lately.
Jerry, Tom and Margot, it could be any of them.
So do you know what next week's episode is, Al?
Yes, Series 4, Episode 1 is Away From It All.
Right, okay. This is the one, isn't it, where I think Tom and Barbara are loaned a flat to go and have a little weekend away by Jerry.
Yes.
It's a JJM flat or something, and they go and have a little weekend away, and they have to entrust the Ledbetters to look after the animals, and that's where the drama ensues.
Comedy ensues.
Yes, yeah, exactly. From
pigs everywhere.
From memory, Tom is a typical ingrate as usual, so...
Yeah.
Not that we expect anything different from the prick these days. That's just Tom.
So if you're following along The Good Life with us, you can find us at SADDO Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. We're also on Facebook, so you can find us by searching for SADDO Podcast. Subscribe to our newsletter by visiting our website, saddo.club, where you can find out more about us and read our blog posts, or listen to the episodes in the browser if you don't do podcast apps. Get in touch and email us at saddopodcast@gmail.com and tell us all the things that we've missed, because we love that. Subscribe and leave us a review wherever you get your podcast from.
Another shout out to Anya for our artwork. She's done us a Jerry and Margot, which I'll share as well at some point. And we might even have some t-shirts available to buy in the not too distant future. And thanks to Beat Raid for our theme tune, which is funked up version of the Good Life theme tune, which we love.
We do. It makes me so happy when I hear it.
Thanks for listening, and join us again next week for episode 1 of Series 4, Away From It All.
Thanks a lot. See you soon.
I'll see thee.